Thank you, Zip and Zap, for your review. Educational and entertaining. An upbeat, easy listen that provides useful gardening info.
Welcome to the Gardenangelist, where we talk about flowers, veggies, and all the best dirt. I'm Carol Michael from Indianapolis, Indiana, where I have a suburban garden measured in square feet.
And I'm Dee Nash from Guthrie, Oklahoma, where I garden on several acres out in the country.
We call ourselves Gardenangelists because we are evangelists for gardening. We love gardening, and we want others to love it too.
Yes, we do, and we aren't afraid to spill the beans and tell all of our gardening secrets, the good, the bad, and even the ugly. But that's enough of who, what, when, where. Let's move on to this week's episode. Hello, Carol.
Hello, Dee. How are you?
I'm great. How does your garden grow?
Okay, so you know how when you ride a roller coaster and it kind of pulls you up to the very top peak?
Yes.
And there's that little pause and then you go straight down?
Yes.
So we're almost to the peak. It's still only like, 69 degrees out there, maybe 70. But
right,
this is Tuesday. By Friday, the high is supposed to be 87. So it's like go time in the garden. There's not going to be another frost, I don't think. Don't make me eat these words. Gosh, darn it. Ooh. Anyway, I say that. So I got tomato and pepper seedlings are outside hardening off. I've got all the perennials planted that I purchased. And guess what I did today? It's not in our notes, but I told you about it.
You told me about it when we were on the phone. Let's tell our listeners.
So yesterday, I met my sister at the greenhouse again after her work. She needed just a few flowers. So I met her over there, and I'm like her personal guide. Got the flowers. And so they were leaving, and I'm leaving. And I get a call on my phone. She says, "What is that beautiful tree flowering out front?" And I knew before I even circled back around to look that it was a red horse chestnut because that's blooming right now. It's my favorite, and they always bring in a couple of those, and that's what it was. So today I went.
So I told you this earlier. I didn't know what a red horse chestnut was, and you told me. So we should tell, because I don't think they grow much here. And part of it's because I think their leaves would get scorched by our winds. But it is a beautiful tree.
It is. The red horse chestnut is a cross between a horse chestnut and a red buckeye, and it's Aesculus X carnea. And the variety that she got is Fort McNair. And so what makes it really, really something is it has those cone-shaped clusters of flowers that are pinkish red. I'm looking at one now on the Morton Arboretum site. It has a very tropical look. It has the same leaf that you would see on a buckeye, those 5 palmate leaf things. This thing is gorgeous.
The flowers, I looked at the same website when you were talking to me on the phone, and the flowers remind me a little bit of a panicle hydrangea.
Yeah, a little bit.
Except for they stay red.
A little bit.
Yeah, they have that long panicle bloom, which personally is my favorite bloom of hydrangeas. Sorry, I couldn't get the word out.
So anyway, long story short, I went back over today. I got her a price. I texted her. She wants it. I got it. We loaded it up on the truck. I took it there, and her husband and son were home, and we got it placed in the yard. And the neighbors from across the street that they hardly ever talked to came over. It's like, where did you get that beautiful tree?
It is beautiful.
And it's in a spot where they had taken out a big maple before. So there's this open spot that is just like, it's going to be the perfect tree there. I'm so excited about it. Anyway.
So it's a beautiful, beautiful tree for Indiana.
And, as soon as I became aware of them, it's like if I had room in my yard, I would have this so fast. And you and I actually talked about there's a ginkgo over on the side, and the second spring that it's gotten zapped by late frost, and the leaves get burnt, and then it takes forever for it to leaf out. And I'm thinking, maybe I ought to just get rid of that and get myself one of these red horse chestnuts.
Yeah. That is always the dilemma, It is always the dilemma.
Yes.
Especially with trees, because it's a big tree. So it's not a little bitty tree.
No. And so it's so beautiful. can't. Anyway,
She has tree envy, people.
I have very serious tree envy. Anyway, since last week, I've mowed twice and it has rained a bunch. How about Oklahoma?
So in Oklahoma, it's been rainy and cool. And
Ditto.
Bill and I went away for the weekend to Santa Fe, but I kept looking on my phone, and also my kids were here. And so they were telling me how rainy and cool it was, which is great for Oklahoma because you're having the kind of spring Oklahoma usually has. It stays cold and then suddenly it gets hot. And it's like, whoa, we didn't have time to do anything. And everything is just beautiful and it's growing and gorgeous. So here's what I did. Before I left town, I pulled out more Goldsturm Rudbeckia, it's my goal in life to get rid of as much of it as possible. I don't think it'll ever go away, but I've really, really pared it down. So in its place, I planted a new to me phlox that's called Fashionably Early Flamingo. And I found it in Tulsa, and it looks like Phlox Mini Pearl had babies with a purple thing, a purple bloom thing. So it's a light purple.
Sounds pretty.
And it's gorgeous. It's really pretty. And so then also I was watching Gardener's World. And as one is wont to do when they watch Gardener's World, you end up searching for plants online that they have in England. Do you ever do that?
I don't know what you're talking about, Dee. Keep going. Let's not implicate ourselves and let's not tell people. Never mind. Keep moving along there, Dee.
So for the first time ever, I finally bit the bullet and I went to Annie's Annuals because Annie's Annuals shipping is really high. And so I've never bought from them, even though we've been there. You and I have both. Haven't you been with us to Annie's Annuals, or was that?
I was not on that trip.
Oh, I'm really sorry you missed it because it was a cool place. But I have always wanted to grow Angelica stricta purpurea. And it has umbels and they're purple and it has dark purple leaves and it just fits all my dark purple dreams. So I bought it and I bought 3 of them and I put them in the newest border. And then I also bought Verbascum Phoenicium. Well, I think it's Phoenicium Violetta, which I also saw in Gardener's World. And I had to have that too, because Verbascums don't love Oklahoma, but they don't hate it either. And then I bought 2 climbing roses a long time ago, I had roses on the backside of my house and they caught rose rosette disease. And so I took out those climbers. Well, I've replaced those climbers with Phyllis Bide, which is a climbing rose. So I was busy before I left.
It sounds like it. I'm looking at this verbascum online thinking, oh, that's pretty. It's got the name Violetta, so it might go with my violet obsession. And it looks like it would be perfectly hardy here. Thanks a lot, Dee. I'm not getting it. I'm not getting it.
You're so welcome.
I am not getting it.
That's all I did this week. So should we go on to our quote?
We should go on to our quote because otherwise I'll just start shopping while we're recording.
Yeah, I understand that.
Here it is. People from a planet without flowers would think we must be mad with joy the whole time to have such things about us. As written by the novelist Iris Murdoch in a book called A Fairly Honorable Defeat from 1970. But I read the quote in a book called The Moth Snowstorm, Nature and Joy by Michael McCarthy. Anyway, I just thought that was pretty good about flowers. That we have just perfectly illustrated that, Dee.
We have, and people take them for granted because they don't know. I don't know. Oklahoma's having one of those beautiful springs, and I'm looking out my window, and everything is in bloom all at once, which just doesn't happen. So this week we're going to talk about night-scented flowers, which is one of my very favorite topics, and I'm glad you picked it.
Well, good, and I'm glad you added to it. So you know who would appreciate night-scented flowers, don't you?
Who?
Vampires.
Yeah, I guess they would.
And people who work during the day and often see their flowers only at dusk and at night. Those kinds of people, I think, a night-scented garden would be perfect for them because then they don't miss out on all the daytime stuff because the action is at night.
Yeah, exactly. That's a good one. I was thinking when you were saying that, I have a friend named Lori, and she worked, and she particularly chose night opening. She's a daylily person. She chose night opening daylilies. And there are certain ones that open in the evening instead of opening early in the morning.
I did not know that.
Yeah. They open later. And so if you open So if they open so she could see them early in the morning on her way to work. Does that make sense?
It does. And now I'm thinking, I've always said like with daylilies, there's so many thousands of different varieties that you kind of have to narrow down your focus or you'll go insane.
Right.
And so there's a new focus, the late opening daylilies, which I didn't know until this moment existed.
Yeah, they open during the night. So purple ones, if I'm remembering this right, purple ones with green throats, which purple and green throats go together a lot in daylilydom, they open really like late evening, late night, early morning. So they're one of the late opening ones.
Right.
They open at night.
But here's the thing about the daylilies. And I'm not going to, I'm like, I could take daylilies or leave them. I don't really go swoony all over them.
I kind of swoon.
They don't really have scent, except like there's very few like
That's
Hyperion,
not true.
which is...
That's not true.
Okay, most of them don't have much scent, Dee. You can't tell me they're scented.
You are going to have to come to my garden because a lot of them are scented. It just depends on the variety. Some varieties have a lot of scent. So I don't agree. But go back to the night scented stuff.
Let's go back to flowers that really have scent. And so
You mean highly scented flowers?
That's correct. That's correct.
Okay, go ahead.
So obviously, Nicotiana, all the flowering tobaccos are night scented. I think of them all as night scented.
I think they are, yes.
And they do attract moths and things like that to pollinate them.
Which is another reason that we grow night flowers, is because, moths.
And moths is kind of the overriding theme of this week's episode, in case anybody didn't realize this. We bounce around from trees to daylilies to what are we talking about, Dee?
Yeah, we're talking about night scented flowers. So all the Nicotianas, yes. And I'm growing...
I was going to say, and closely related are many petunias.
Yes, petunias are also very high. Some of them are highly scented. They've kind of had the scent bred out of them, so you want certain petunias. But I was going to say on Nicotiana, I am growing only the lonely. I also bought that from Annie's Annuals, but you can grow it from seed. I just figured as long as I was putting things in the box, I might as well grow it. Only the lonely is that really tall one, and it has the white, it's an alba. But it's a specific one that is extremely highly scented. And I planted it in this border right outside my window so that I could smell it.
Ooh, that'll be fun.
And then night phlox, which Midnight Candy is one of the varieties, and I'm growing that this year. I started it from seed. It was hard.
And I did not know about night phlox.
It was hard. I thought it was
What was hard?
very hard to grow from seed. Sometimes, like if you only grow... See, now I'm going to divert off again, and I'm sorry. If you only grow vegetables from seed, you would think that starting vegetables from seed is really easy, right?
Yeah.
For the most part. But some flowers are hard. And they're hard because sometimes flowers need light to germinate. The seeds do. Sometimes they need a specific temperature to germinate. Sometimes they're little tiny, tiny seeds that are really, really hard. And that's where this one is. And I think it also needed sunlight. So it had teeny, teeny, tiny seeds, which I scattered over the soil, the potting soil.
Right.
And then when I had to tamp them down, but they still had to have light. And it may have even needed a certain temperature. Anyway, I got it all to germinate, but pulling it, thinning it, oh my gosh. I have thinned it and thinned it and thinned it. And it has really straggly leaves. I'm not really giving you much of a reason to grow it, am I? Sorry.
No, and I want you to tackle the botanical name, which I wrote down there.
Where is it? I don't see it.
Keep going down through my notes.
Oh, because we did. Yeah, because you did. Oh, my goodness. Okay, here we go. Zaluzianskaya capensis. What do you think?
Zaluzianskia capensis. I think that's pretty good.
Okay, I wasn't even that close, but yours sounded really good. So it's an old annual that not very many people grow, and I know why, because it was kind of hard, but it was neat.
So
too.
I am not growing it.
Well, let's smell it first, and I'll let you know if it's worth it or not.
I am growing the Petunia Evening Sensation from seed. I got those from All America Selections, and they've all come up really well, and they're hardening off now. So we'll see how fragrant those are. I'm going to put them out front.
And I'm growing a selection of petunia that was found at Bustani Plant Farm. It's a sport off of Laura Bush, which Laura Bush is also fragrant. But this one is highly fragrant, and it's a lavender one. And I think they just called it lavender sport or something like that.
And so before we get to the one that's really poisonous, let's go through a couple more annuals. So the 4 o'clocks is another one. I call that a half-hardy annual. It usually comes back from seed, and if you plant it, you'll have it forever.
So it's mostly hardy, especially the pink ones, are hardy in Oklahoma, but they also spread by seed. And then I would say that the one I grow, which is, I'm not going to be able to remember the name of it. It's a variety that is kind of a melon color, and it comes back from seed. And then there's another variety out there. There's a white one, but there's also one that is got lime green leaves and hot pink blooms.
That sounds
all
pretty.
of them, all of them open in the evening. All 4 o'clocks do. So, and they smell really good.
And then I listed Sweet Alyssum, which I know dies out completely in the hot Oklahoma summer.
Yeah, eventually.
But if you can get it to carry over, it's one that has a really lovely scent, and you can smell it in the evening. And it's one you might have to shear it back in the summer to keep it from getting leggy, and then it would come back in the fall, at least in Indiana, but maybe in Oklahoma you'd have to buy fresh plants in the fall.
Yeah, you probably would. I mean, used to be when I first started gardening, it wasn't so hot here in the summer, at least during that time period, and I got it to stay all summer, but I haven't been able to for a long time. So another one that you thought of was moonflower vine, which is Ipomea alba, and so it's part of the Morning Glory clan, and it is a wonderful, wonderful plant. If you can get it, it's not that hard to get started. You grow it just like Morning Glories. Has bigger leaves, kind of gray. I would call them gray-green. And has big white flowers. It's very pretty.
Yeah, and I think like Morning Glory, in some areas, it would self-sow itself if you weren't careful.
I think it would self-sow here. And then were we going to go back to the poisonous one?
Yes. Datura. Do you grow a Datura, also Brugmansia? Do you grow those at all?
I have grown both of them. I do not have them in my garden at the moment, but yes, I have grown them both.
Yeah, they're great. They're poisonous. The seeds.
Especially
yes.
the
and
seeds.
So that is one that if you grow a lot of tropical plants, most people that grow tropicals have a Datura or Brugmansia, but it's something you have to bring inside to overwinter, or I don't know if you overwinter that dormant in the pot, like in a shed or something, but it's not hardy.
So Datura in Oklahoma, because I see it growing several places, especially the white one, the white Datura, I don't think it overwinters, but it definitely self-sows because wherever somebody has it, they have it every year, So it must just come back from seed. And then the purple one does not come back from seed very well. And it's also not a good night pollinator plant because it's a double. Now, Brugmansia has to be grown in partial shade in Oklahoma, and people grow it in pots, and they bring the pots indoors. I do know that. So, if you want to keep them. Sometimes people just grow these things and let go of them at the end of the summer.
Yeah, it depends on how much you paid for them.
Exactly.
So, well, that's our list of night blooming flowers. And so if people have more interest in those, there's so many articles and things out there.
Yes.
That they can find. But it is something to think about if you work during the day or you just enjoy your garden more at night because of the heat and things like that. Definitely think about some night blooming flowers.
Yes. So our next quote is, "May God grant you always a sunbeam to warm you, a moonbeam to charm you, a sheltering angel so nothing can harm you, laughter to cheer you, faithful friends near you, and whenever you pray, heaven to hear you. An Irish blessing." Oh, that just made me happy.
It is a very happy one. And I have that on a plaque by my door, and I saw the word moonbeam. And I thought, well, we're talking about moonflowers. And why don't we use that quote? Because our next topic has nothing to do really with moonflowers or night flowers or moths.
No,
we decided to talk about strawberries.
Yeah, because it's that time of year. I mean, either you're planting strawberries up where you live, right?
Yep.
And you could still be planting them here.
Yep.
Or in my case, I have started to harvest them. because in my garden, they are bearing right now because they bear in about May in Oklahoma.
And mine are mine are flowering very nicely, and fruit is beginning to form. But most of our strawberry festivals take place in early June,
which makes sense because of where you live. So the most common question I get, and you get, everyone gets, is what type of strawberry should we have? And it's like, should it be June bearing, ever bearing, or day neutral? And this is how I always approach this question. You wrote these notes right here, but I say the same thing. Are you wanting to make strawberry jam? Is how I ask them. Or are you just,
and if you are,
then you want June berry.
Get June berry.
Right.
You get all your fruit at once.
So you get a whole bunch of fruit, you make some strawberry jam, and yay, Bob's your uncle. Now, if you want to get, Bill says that all the time, which is funny because we do have an Uncle Bob. But anyway.
I had an Uncle Bob.
Did you? I think maybe that's where that came from. A lot of people had an Uncle Bob. So if you want smaller harvests like I do, because I don't care about making jam particularly, I've made it in the past. I just don't really have to do it right now. So I want to eat them. I want to walk out in the garden and eat a sun-warmed strawberry when I'm out there. And I want to eat several of them. Because today I went out there and I picked a whole bunch and brought them inside. Then you want either day neutral or ever bearing. And I think they've actually interbred day neutral and ever bearing now too. So
I'm not up on the latest strawberry breeding.
And I just don't even care. I'll be honest. So the biggest problem with strawberries is
the birds like them too. And so the birds will get in there and you'll see this beautiful, big, ripe berry, and then you'll turn it over and it has a big bird peck out of it. Just cut that part off.
That's right. Birds love strawberries. I just cut it off and eat it. Or if I'm outside, I pinch it off with my fingernail and eat it and go on with my day. And then also other things like to eat them too.
Yeah, like slugs get on there sometimes.
And turtles.
I do not have a turtle problem.
I actually have in the past. I don't now because they're in my potager, so they're way up high. So everything really likes strawberries is what we're trying to say.
Now,
and they also, go ahead.
I don't some people put like a netting over them. I don't do that because first of all, it makes it inconvenient for me to get in there and pick it.
Exactly.
And the birds can get all tangled up on it. And so that's no good either.
And I'm a lazy gardener, so I just don't have time for bird netting. I mean, I really don't. So I don't do that. So do you fertilize your strawberries?
I'm a lazy gardener, so not really.
The answer is no. No, what I do is I put down a little bit of pine bark mulch around them. You can also use straw, hence the name strawberries if you want to. They do like a little mulch. And so the mulch goes down in the soil and the soil stays fertile. And I just haven't had any trouble with it.
No.
I mean, they just do their thing.
They kind of can sort of wear out where they're at because maybe they didn't get mulched or
they're
something.
Heavy bearing.
Or they can get some disease and stuff. Mm-hmm. So sometimes it's like with any other thing, it's good to rotate that crop and move it to another area if you can. Start over with some fresh plants. If you've got problems with disease or it's starting to thin out. The next thing people ask is what variety to plant. And I'm like, go look it up.
Yeah. Yeah, there's so many varieties out there.
So many varieties.
And I
found a website called strawberryplants.org, and it seems to be like a site to sell berries, and I can't tell who it is, so I don't really want to recommend it. So go to your cooperative extension service, look up strawberries, and they will probably list some of the varieties that are good for your area, because with strawberries, it is sort of regional. Like a berry that might do really well here in Indiana is a dog in Oklahoma, vice versa.
But I do know one that does well in Oklahoma and does well in Indiana. And it's June bearing, I think. Ozark Beauty.
Yeah, that's an older variety.
It's an older variety. It's very popular. It's been around forever. And then I personally like the ones that have the red flowers because I think they're prettier. And I have two types. I have Buried Treasure Red from Proven Winners, which is an everbearing type. And I have Berry Basket Rose, spelled Berri, Basket Rose from Ball Seed. And I bought those locally, and they've done really well. And I will say that Buried Treasure has a more traditional berry, strawberry the shape of a
Right.
strawberry, like a heart. And then the other one, Berry Basket Rose, is more of an elongated strawberry, which is more like the ones that they used to do in baskets, which I can't think of what they are right now. But anyway, they're just slightly different berry, but I don't care. I'm just out there eating them out of the garden anyway. And the best thing ever is I give them to my granddaughter when she comes over. And she eats.
And she loves them.
She loves them. I have a picture of us together, which I'll put on our Instagram. And she is eating a strawberry and she's going, mmm. So that's why I grow them.
That's nice.
For her.
So I will include links to Berry Treasure Red from Proven Winners and Berry Basket Rose from Ball Seed. I'll include some links from that. Let's move on to our next quote. We are Chatty Cathy's again today.
There's a lot to talk about, Carol.
I know. Here's the quote. All my life through, the sights of nature made me rejoice like a child. Marie Curie.
Did you know that there's a new show about Marie Curie, and I think it's on Prime. That's just an aside. A brand new show about her. Okay, go ahead. So we're talking about the moth snowstorm, which really means you're talking about it because I haven't read it.
Okay, so the book is The Moth Snowstorm, Nature and Joy by Michael McCarthy. And this is a book that was published several years ago in Great Britain. And Michael McCarthy is a Great Britain writer, nature writer. And he wrote this really sweet book, and it's sort of a memoir, but also his observations about nature. And I just really enjoyed reading it. And, he refers back to the impact on his life of seeing a butterfly bush just covered with butterflies when he was just a child, and just always kind of being very fascinated with nature. And so he talks about a lot of different environments, and he talks about things that threaten like the migrations of moths and birds and things. And, people put developments in right across through a migration path. And it's just, I thought it was a really good book. So I thought I would feature it. But it also got me thinking about the moth snowstorm. You know what that is, don't you?
I assume it's the moths, flying in unison.
Yeah, it's like, and back in the day, you would go out in the country, say at night, and there would be so many moths flying around that it would be like a snowstorm. And you would almost have to turn on your windshield wipers to wipe them away. And you can see them in the lights of your headlights. Mm-hmm. Just so many moths that it was like a snowstorm. So that's where the term moth snowstorm comes from.
That would totally freak my daughters out since they don't like moths. But yes, I know what he's talking about. I remember when moths were that plentiful too as a kid, and butterflies. Yes. That's not that way anymore.
No, it isn't. But I would say, in the interest of time, The Moth Snowstorm, Nature and Joy by Michael McCarthy. Get a copy at your local library or whatever. It's a nice read.
It sounds like it's a nice read. I downloaded it on my Kindle while we were talking because I want to read it because I love moths.
I know you love moths.
I do.
And that's our dirt.
I do. And so I love this part of the dirt. Tell it.
So the dirt is, you can actually buy moth traps to put out in the garden like at night. And then you can capture the moths and see what you have. And then they can be released. So I think that would be a fun activity to do with kids. And I'm always trying to think of things to make kids less afraid of insects. Because my great nephew doesn't like insects. My sister said he loves to dig in the garden, but he makes her go make sure there's not a bunch of ants where he's going to go dig. Yeah,
I think that is something that is really hard for people. And I think I've worked really hard with my kids and my granddaughter not to be scared of insects because most insects can't hurt you.
No, they can't. And so I did read, and I read it on 2 sites, so it must be true, or they've copied each other. There are 160,000 species of moths in the world.
That's a lot.
That's a lot of species of moths. And the other thing is people think they're attracted to light, like the porch lights and things.
Right.
But the one site said that moths actually use light, as in moonlight, to navigate by. And so it disorients it. It's disorienting to them to see those other lights.
I had read that too, that it freaks them out. So they're having some problems because we use lights outside. Now, I will say, right. Bill and I, in our garden and in our house, we use motion detector lights. So ours stay off most of the time and just come on if something goes in front of them. And part of that is to protect
like
the
a moth.
moths. Well, I mean, I don't know if a moth would set them off. I think
No, I
something
would doubt
bigger
a moth.
would. So we got to go on to our garden commissions because we're running out of time.
Okay, but I might get a moth trap this summer and give it a try.
I think I want a moth trap too.
What are you doing this week?
What am I doing this week? Oh my gosh. I'm still planting everything. I also need to finish mulching, cutting back my perennials like asters and mums. It's time, people. And we've had so much rain that the garden looks so fresh and it really looks beautiful this year. I'm also harvesting lettuce as fast as I can and radishes because they're trying to bolt. And once a radish bolts, the middle of it becomes hard like a cork. Ask me why I know. And then I have tons of both. And then last night I made a salad with radishes, lettuce, and chive blossoms.
Pretty.
And I made a dressing for it, like a vinaigrette. Oh my gosh, it was so good. Let's see. And I'm also caging and staking my tomatoes. And while in Santa Fe, our sweet friend, Ellen Zakos, bless her heart, took me around to some nurseries because I wrote her ahead of time. I haven't been able to find Big Jim peppers here, and I love Big Jim chili peppers. So she got on Facebook and found through her group where they had them, and we found both Big Jim and Chamayo peppers, which is named after the town of Chamayo. And those are both New Mexican varieties, and so I had to order 2 more smart pots, and I got to go right after this and buy some potting soil for them and get them planted. That's all I'm doing this week. That's it.
That ain't much. I'm probably going to sit around and read books all week. You know, it's not, are you crazy? It's go time here in Indiana.
It's go time.
And with the temperatures heating up so quickly, so it is time to pull out my beloved violas and pansies. And this year, instead of composting them, I'm going to plant them over on the side of the house just to see how long they last.
Cool.
And then I'm going to put in my summer annuals. I got to go help my sister plant annuals at her condo. She'll listen to this and she's like, when is she going to plant? When's she going to plant? So I'm coming over the weekend. I'm going to plant. I'm hardening off my peppers and tomatoes as fast as I can. Those babies need to keep growing, though. They're a little bit puny when you compare it to what's in the garden centers, but they'll catch up.
They will.
Anyway, it's go time.
You can do it, Carol. You can do it. We can both do it.
I know I can. I know. We're going to have a great time. Anyway, we want to thank everyone for listening to The Garden Angelist. If you like our podcast, please tell your friends about us. Also, hit that subscribe button so you don't miss anything.
And if you listen to Apple Podcasts, we love a 5-star review. That helps us get noticed by others. Could you also share our podcast with your friends? Word of mouth is still the best way to get the word out there.
Yes, and be sure and check out our show notes for links for more information about today's topics, plus links to our own websites. And if you want to help support us, use those affiliate links, especially for books. If you buy something after clicking through on them, we earn a small commission. It costs you nothing.
It was lovely to chat with all of you over the garden gate today. Bye until next week.
Bye, everybody.